Hello and welcome to episode 125 of Radio Gorepress. I'm Sarah. Joining me as always is my co-host Phil.
Hello.
How are you, Phil?
I am cautiously good. Cautiously good. Those of you in the Discord will know I got pretty ill over the weekend and it wasn't pleasant, but I recovered just about in time to get the mini-sode up a day late. So I'm feeling okay at the moment, but I'm kind of touching wood just in case.
All of the woods.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How are you?
Oh, everything's terrible and I'm crushed by existential dread every minute of every day. Is that the answer you were looking for?
I mean, it's not what I was looking for. It's what I expected.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
The good people of podcast land don't need to hear about my personal woes. So moving swiftly on. Episode 125. It's not a landmark, but that's a big number.
It's a lot, isn't it?
It's I was going to say it's higher than I can count, but it's not. I'm a grown woman. I can count very high.
To at least 133.
Yeah. If not 134. Yeah. This is the first time in a little while that we've done kind of a write-in.
Yeah. This
was a request over on the old Instagrams. And as soon as they suggest, forgive me, I forget precisely who it was that requested it.
Sarah.
I know, I'm terrible. I'm a horrible person.
They're not going to believe us now. It's a write-in from our friend who goes to a different school.
They also live in Canada. Yeah, when they suggested it, I was just like, hang on a minute, we've definitely covered Sleepaway Camp. But it turns out we haven't done a proper episode on Sleepaway Camp.
No, we didn't. We covered it years and years ago in what became Radio Gorepress.
Well, it wasn't, because we had, obviously, I think it might have been back when it was the Gorepress Gorecast.
Yeah.
And I think it was just you and me, and Rosie would come on board for what we called Gormantries.
Which were our horrendous takes on like a riff track style.
Yeah, just like a shitty commentary track, which apparently we didn't phrase correctly because the number of people who messaged to say, why are there long periods of no speaking?
I'm impressed they listened that far, to be honest.
True. They're the real heroes. But yeah, we had a blast doing it. It was probably about, I want to say about 9 years ago.
Don't.
I know.
Don't, Sarah.
I know. But it's ripe for a revisit.
Yeah, sure is. I can't remember a thing of what I said back then, so I can only assume this is all gold.
I also don't think there's any way to check because I'm pretty certain that episode was lost to the to time and space.
Oh, what a shame.
I know. What a bummer. Oh no. Etc.
So, do you want to give the good people a clue on what we're doing?
I've already said Sleepaway Camp like 17 times.
I didn't hear it properly announced. I need a place to edit the intro in, Sarah.
You've had one already.
Okay, fine.
There have been many opportunities.
Do you cut you off halfway through a sentence?
Would you, Phil, like to give the people a synopsis?
I've already said a synopsis, Sarah. Like six. No, okay, fine. I've got two here.
Don't gaslight me. How dare you?
I've got two here. One's good. One is. It's written so weirdly. It sounds like it was written by a robot trying to
do the weird
write...
one.
Okay.
Do the weird one.
Okay, so like I had to wrap my head around what it's trying to say. Bunks and the Showers are a mad stabber's beat at a summer camp strictly for teens.
Okay.
That's it. Like,
is that the whole thing?
That's it. You type Sleepaway Camp synopsis and that's the first thing. And I'm like, is that like poetry?
I was going to say, it's like somebody did some slam poetry for Sleepaway Camp. Have they written
Like
more?
it's got like a rhythm to it, hasn't it?
Kind of, like a really weird cadence. I'm interested to know if they've expanded their fine poetry to other slashers of the 80s.
I like the idea though, just like writing synopsis, but in the style of beat poetry.
Yeah, and after, should I have like done one of those weird little pretentious clicky claps after you finished reading it?
I'll edit that in, it's fine.
Okay, cool.
Should we do the proper one though?
Yeah, that was terrible.
Okay. After a horrible boating accident kills her family, shy, sullen Angela moves in with her eccentric aunt Martha and protective cousin Ricky. One summer, Martha sends the kids to Camp Arawak. Soon after their arrival, bizarre, increasingly violent accidents claim the lives of various campers. Who is the twisted individual behind these murders? The disclosure of the murderer's identity is one of the most shocking climaxes in the history of American cinema.
Is it?
I know. Is it
though? Did you know who the killer was before you this is spoiler free for the time being.
For the very, very short time being.
Yeah, but we will spoil this film. So if you are some unique individual that has managed to avoid spoilers for Sleepaway Camp for 40 years. This film is 40 years old.
Oh God.
Firstly, congratulations. Secondly, stop the podcast. What are you doing? Stop it. Go and watch Sleepaway Camp and then come back because we're going to spoil the shit out of it. Mm-hmm. Continue, Phil.
I mean, you were asking me a question, so...
Was I?
Yeah.
So, right. This is a disaster already. The first time I watched this, I was in the camp of people that had the film spoiled for them.
Oh, okay.
So I was not able to revel in the shocking, in inverted mystery quotes, ending. Mm-hmm. Were you among the illustrious few, or?
I can't remember, because it was like, this is the second time I've watched this movie, first time being with you guys X number of years ago.
Some time in the past.
I don't remember having it being spoiled. I don't remember it being such a big kind of filmic event to me that it was a big deal that it had been spoiled, even if it was. That being said, looking at it in hindsight, I can't see how you would ever not guess who the killer was.
Oh, do you think? Because I
don't think there are many red herrings.
There's huge red herrings.
Okay.
They're clearly trying to set Ricky up as the killer.
Okay. Maybe
we'll clearly talk about this later on. Okay. Do you know what spoiled it for me?
What?
An episode of Robot Chicken.
Rude.
In fairness, the film was probably already about 28 years old when I watched Robot Chicken. So, pretty fair game. Mm-hmm. That's on me.
Yep.
But that's where the what did twist came from.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
If I remember rightly, it was little stop motion M. Night Shyamalan. Every time.
Literally,
last
minute you were like, how do I pronounce Shyamalan?
I can't. It's this real stumbling block for me. But yeah, there's a little plasticine version of him just going, what did twist? After reimagined versions of the ending of films.
Gotcha.
So
he spoiled it.
Basically, Seth Green is to blame. And Breckin Meyer and whoever else was involved in that genius show.
Okay.
How dare they?
Okay. No, like I said, I don't remember having it. Again, it could have been spoiled for me. It could have been. But because it wasn't like a big film that I'd been desperate to see for the longest time, I didn't really mind that it was spoiled if it was.
Okay.
Which I know is a complete non-answer, so you're welcome.
Is that a spoiler for your feelings about the film?
Well, sure.
Oh, no.
We'll wait and see.
Okay.
Maybe you'll change my mind. Maybe I'm undecided until an hour and a half from now.
That does happen sometimes.
I know. I think it's just the nature of just talking about something. If you're a bit undecided or a bit unsure, talking to someone who feels strongly about it either way can help cement your feelings toward it, whether with or against the other person.
I agree with you, and I don't want to like crap all over your dreams. However, this film is shit.
Okay. Good.
But I love it.
I'm glad you think that way.
I still love it. It's not very good, but I love it. But I'm a garbage person who likes garbage films, so
Fair
sue
point.
me.
Fair point.
Don't sue me. I've got nothing. Nothing for you to take. So we start off with quite a bizarre flashback.
Uh-huh.
Or, well, not even a flashback at that point. Kind of an explanation as to how Angela ends up sans parents staying with, I believe the synopsis referred to her as eccentric Aunt Martha.
That's
which
the
is
second time I've heard her referred to as eccentric.
I mean, talk about your understatements.
Yeah.
Eccentric is not strong enough of a word for whatever she is.
She's clearly in a different movie to everyone else.
I think she's not human. She's not on the same planet as anyone else, never mind the same film. So, the most New York kids that I have ever heard in my life, talking about, like, I don't know, the subway and rats and pizza and stuff.
Walking in sidewalks.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the roads.
And other stereotypes. Sorry, everybody who's from New York. But they're out on this lake with their dad and their dad's partner. Now, is the dad... partner can mean many things. I don't like to presume. But at that point, we don't know that they are, like, intimate partners.
Yes.
There are some kids, again in inverted quotes, kids who are on a speedboat, dragging behind them the most unenthusiastic looking friend that I've ever seen. And horrible accident happens. The speedboat kind of decks their submerged boat after they played a prank on their dad. The kids are dicks. I'm sorry.
Just that whole scene was just cringy as fuck.
All of it.
Oh, the film, not the entire film, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so obviously we see, like, the dad's body after the speedboat has kind of decimated the dad and one of the children.
Yeah.
We see the dad's body, not a mark on him.
He looks fine, didn't he?
He's just sleeping. Did they check?
He's dead. Why?
Yeah.
He would have turned the other way by now.
And the dad's partner on the shore says my favourite thing in the whole film, which is just John, but said, John. I don't know why that cracks me up, just the way he says it.
There's just
love it.
So many lines in this film that are delivered entirely the wrong way you'd expect.
There are some really funny lines in this film. Whether that was intentional or not, there are some corkers. I don't think I wrote very many of them down, but I'll try and remember later on. So straight off the bat, would you call this film a slasher?
I mean, yes, in the sense that it kind of fulfills a lot of the tropes that slasher movies do. No, in the sense that it's not a slasher in that there's no killer with a single weapon that is terrorizing.
Yeah, there's very little slashing.
Yeah, like you usually have a single, like the killer usually has an iconic weapon they're known for killing with in slasher movies, whereas this one's a bit of a free-for-all.
Yeah, whatever's at hand.
But that being said, given the quality of it, given the beats and the events of the movie, I would probably say it was.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn. I would say the sequels are definitely more in the vein of slashers than this one. It's weird, isn't it? Because I think, did this come out a couple of years after Friday the 13th? And
it wouldn't surprise me.
I think The Burning was made the same year. So there was a precedent for like camp set horror films.
Yeah.
It wasn't completely out of left field at this point.
Mm.
And you're right, it does hit a lot of the same beats as slasher movies, but there are some like glaring differences. Like you've already said, there's no one weapon. The killer utilizes whatever is at hand.
Mm-hmm.
The second is that, not exclusively, but like I would say predominantly, the victims are like actual children.
That's true.
Which is really fucked up when you think about it. And also, there are more attempted killings than the average slasher.
Mm. Sorry.
I was just going to say, like, in most slasher movies, they don't really leave survivors. Like, there are a couple of attempted slayings.
That's true. That is true. I think you're probably right to pick up on the fact that they're not kind of... They don't do the whole, getting drunk and having sex thing. Mm-hmm. But I think the same ethic is there in that it's punishing wrongdoing.
Like, I think that's one of the reasons I love this film. As somebody who was bullied during school, like, this is absolute wish fulfillment for me.
That makes a lot of sense.
I get to live... I live out my revenge fantasy without going to jail. It's brilliant.
I think that's perhaps more what you should be looking at. It's as if because that would be how you would film a slasher with kind of kids, in that it wouldn't be dealing with exactly the same kind of things going on, but it would still feature that same idea of like wrongdoing being avenged, or not even avenged, but just punished, I suppose. Yeah.
When you say children, I'm assuming you are excluding Judy, who is clearly 35. Looks it anyway. Children and Judy. So for whatever reason, it was released as Nightmare Vacation over here.
Really?
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I was looking this up before we started recording, and the listings on IMDb have Sleepaway Camp, and then the sequels are Nightmare Vacation 2 and Nightmare Vacation 3, which is really bizarre. Because IMDb normally has the American titles, if anything.
Yeah.
I guess to some degree it makes sense because we don't really have Sleepaway Camp over here.
I can see how, like, obviously American culture with the rise of TV, American culture has become quite pervasive over here. And
but not 40 years ago.
I can see like 40 years ago that being less so, and therefore the idea of a sleepaway camp not being quite as popular. But
who are all these parents who've just gotten rid of their children for a summer?
Right?
What a genius idea.
Nightmare Vacation. I'm not sure that does it for me.
It's terrible. It's an awful title, and it's not at all descriptive.
No.
I mean, I guess it's a vacation in that they are away from home.
And it's a weird choice. It's a weird choice even then, because it's like if you're anglicising sleepaway camp.
Yeah, nightmare holiday.
Yeah. We're trying to avoid using Americanisms, so we're going to avoid sleepaway camp. How about vacation? Yes, perfect.
Yeah. Like, I really...
Sidewalk vacation.
Side note, I really hate the term staycation. I really hate that that's a thing. So out of spite, I've started calling it a holiday, which is equally bad, if not worse.
But just out of spite.
But just out of sheer spite, staycation pisses me off.
Love it.
Did you know that there were sequels, by the way?
Yes, but only because I looked them up.
Okay. Did you know that there were technically 4 sequels?
I did not know that. I didn't know. Well, there's like Unhappy Campus was the second one, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know what? I have a lot of time for 2 and 3. They're terrible, yet again. But fun fact, Angela is played by Pamela Springsteen, Bruce's sister.
Okay.
And is a grown-up who is a camp counsellor. and they go like, they veer completely off the track and into like more overt comedy.
Okay.
So the kills are quite fun, and the one-liners, like, I had a good time with them.
I can probably get on board with that. I think the thing I find about these sort of films is that
it's a bit po-faced, maybe.
It kind of I like watching bad films and laughing at them, but I think that's often hard to do if you're by yourself. I think we've always
you're just not trying hard enough.
Maybe, but we've always kind of said that like we've always identified films that are good for like drinking with friends, having a couple of beers and watching with friends, because they're the type of movies that you would enjoy riffing on as you're watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess this is one of them because broadly speaking, it's funny, but not because it's deliberately funny.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So,
I think you just need to get more comfortable talking to yourself.
Must be.
And that problem is solved. Just get drunk on your own, Phil. It's great. And not at all sad.
More alcohol all the time.
Yeah, I do often. So I've seen 2 and 3 and 5, curiously. I've never seen Sleepaway Camp 4.
What subtitle does that one have?
Oh, shit. I can't remember.
Shit. It's called Sleepaway Camp 4 Shit.
Which is
it's the most accurate. It's the most accurate subtitle we've ever had.
I believe it has a 1.7 out of 10
God.
on IMDb. But yeah, curiously, it's the only. Oh wait.
4 is The Survivor, according to Google.
The Survivor, right. And
released in 2012. Didn't realise it was so recent.
So, was that directed by Robert Hitchcock? Did he do the first and the fourth?
Let me just look that up now.
Or was it the first and the fifth?
Yes, I know. And Jim Markovic.
Right. I knew of the 5, he'd only directed 2. I believe he's not really done much else. Like, he did Sleepaway Camp and then just fucked off. Just ran.
Don't blame him.
And never stopped, never looked back. But yeah, so they started production, they started filming on Sleepaway Camp 4 in 1992. And I think they ran out of money and it was just shelved. And then they picked back up again in 2002 and like filmed some new stuff. But from what I've heard, the film is predominantly footage from the first 3 films with a bit of new stuff, and it's like 70 minutes long, and it just sounds like the worst idea ever.
Amazing. That sounds amazing. And I was wrong. Google failed me. Wikipedia has broken down the directors. Hitchcock did this one, the first one, and Return to Sleepaway Camp, which is the
fifth one, which I have seen.
Which is the unnumbered sequel. There's Sleepaway Camp, Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers, Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland, Return to Sleepaway Camp in 2008, and then Sleepaway Camp 4, The Survivor, in 2012, apparently.
Did that actually get a proper release then?
Apparently.
I mean, I don't know how much he had to do with the 4th one, so I think they were just coasting on the name.
Probably.
I'm hoping it would make back its £10 budget, which I'm pretty confident it didn't. But yeah, so he only directed 2 of them.
He did, yes.
He's credited as a writer on all 5. Sometimes people get a writing credit if they came up with the characters.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
I mean,
so
it's his character, so that would make sense.
But he obviously gives a shit about it if he came back in 2008 for Return? Yeah. Which was terrible, by the way. Like, not even in an enjoyable way.
Oh, no.
I regret to inform you. But the original film actually became such a cult hit that it made back the budget times 30.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy when you think about it. I mean, I'm assuming the budget was very low, but still... They were not expecting to have a modest cult hit on their hands, I don't think.
I guess that's the thing. That's where it falls. It's like we've kind of said, it falls just in that perfect pitch of being fun without kind of trying to be fun. Funny without trying to be funny.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
I think it's fun, but because it is a film that is bad, let's face it, bad, you can enjoy it in a really like lighthearted, silly way.
I think they had some good ideas. I will say that. I think they had some genuinely good ideas and some good dialogue. Mm-hmm. Like, the delivery of it was terrible, but I think some of the dialogue was better than people give it credit for.
I'll take your word for that. I think I was too busy being distracted by how badly it was acted.
That's absolutely fair. So skipping back to Aunt Martha for a little bit. Uh-huh. I know, like, I get that she is supposed to be eccentric and like eccentricity is her defining quality. But literally the only way I can describe it is if an alien had just viewed humans for 5 minutes and tried to replicate it.
No, I would say an alien had viewed theatre actors and thought theatre actors were how humans acted.
Children's YouTube presenters.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
She's got that very theatrical, dramatic, stylized way of acting.
Very loud and like, good diction.
and having these moments of quiet introspection where she monologued to herself.
But it's like, whenever she's being thoughtful, it's just like she puts her finger to her face.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a weird cartoonish performance.
Yeah.
I can't accurately describe how incredible it is.
And I think that's the thing. That's why it's so tough, because in a higher quality movie, you would have understood that was a conscious effort and a conscious decision to make her seem eccentric. But because the film is just bad generally, is it like you're just faced with this bonkers character, wondering if that's just the poor acting, whether she's deliberately like that, and it just really throws you for a loop, doesn't it?
It's fucking bizarre.
It is. It's so bizarre.
And it's like, but I guess on some level it sort of works because it is really unsettling.
And I guess it's unsettling.
Yeah.
Okay.
It unsettled me. She was deeply weird.
I thought it was just comic. It reminded me of like a pantomime act.
I mean, yeah, it is comic, but I think it's so bloody awkward that like it made me feel secondhand awkwardness.
Okay.
Which then unsettled me a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm not for a second suggesting that was intended, because I don't think it was. Uh-huh. So obviously she packs up Angela, who we now know is the surviving child from the accident at the beginning, 8 years on.
Yep.
And her own son, Ricky.
Yep.
He is called Ricky, right?
Yeah. I'm
going to get so many names wrong.
Apart from Meg, because she was like, my name's Meg, M-E-G.
Yep. And then pretty sure you didn't need to spell that out, but thank you.
This is Susie, and didn't spell anyone else's name out. And I was like, I want to know how Susie's spelled. Yeah,
because that's like...
that's the one that has multiple choices.
Exactly. Like, M-E-G. Yeah, got it. Cool. Have people repeatedly spelled it wrong? Do you have a chip on your shoulder about it? What's going on there? So those two seem like pretty close. Mm-hmm. Closer than I have ever been to any of my cousins, anyway. They arrive at camp.
Mm-hmm.
There's just the most horrifying scene when children en masse exit buses, and they're very noisy and loud and they move too fast. And that was the scariest part of the film for me. It was overwhelming. I didn't care for it. And then you have these awful characters, like these line cooks, one of whom is just like basically rubbing his trousers like Vic Reeves over these literal children.
Yeah.
So I get it. I understand it. Like, setting somebody up as a despicable paedophile is a pretty good way of going, fodder for...
And I'm glad he went first.
For the unknown killer. Well, he did, but he survived. Potentially.
True.
He didn't die. They took him to hospital.
That's true. That's a shame.
I know, right?
It's like, oh, he's dead. Okay, no. Oh, you didn't ruin the film for me, Sarah.
But like, I mean, it's a pretty transparent way of setting up who is likely to be the first one to die.
I guess, but it's just, there's just, ugh. I mean,
I guess
it's schlock, and that's kind of what that's all about. But oh my god, like, subtlety, please.
Yeah. I mean, so obviously this happens after he kind of corners Angela in the pantry. And Ricky comes in and interrupts before anything untoward can happen, thank God.
Yep.
So at that point, you're kind of left wondering who the killer might be, right? Because obviously he's attacked straight after that. But that's why I think like the misdirection is very obviously supposed to be Ricky.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
because he's always present. He's always defending her and, you know, threatening people who bully her and stuff.
And that's what it turns out later. One of the counsellors, whatever his role is there, he suspects towards the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because the whole ending has just become so steeped in my head that it was hard for me to not see anything but that.
I guess so. Yeah, if it's like a repeat watch and you're very aware of what's happening. But I think, I don't know, or maybe if you're just watching it with critical thinking, because it's such an obvious red herring.
Yeah.
And there's something deeply strange about Angela.
Well, that's the thing. They go so out of their way to set Angela up as a very kind of strange individual.
Yeah, I
read a film that isn't known even this far into the movie for its subtlety.
Oh yeah, nothing subtle about this.
I wasn't really expecting it to pull like a double bluff and find out that. Anyway, you were saying.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I read a thing before we started recording, and it was kind of talking about how there were several points at which the very ending, the killer's reveal, was foreshadowed.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm talking about this in vague terms. We've already told you it's going to be spoiled.
Yep.
So, but there are moments where they said, you know, Angela doesn't want to go in the water and stuff like that. She was in a boating accident. There's a very good explanation for that beyond what we know to be true by the end.
That's a very valid point.
Like,
I would be terrified of open water too.
Same. I don't know if I'd be comfortable having a bath. But I didn't necessarily think any of that stuff was a super obvious lean towards the reveal.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm alone there. I don't know. I do love that when the first attempted death, when the unknown killer at this point attempts to kill the cook, he's just on the ground, prone position, just kind of screaming in agony. And the older cook just comes in and just stands there looking shocked for like 30 full seconds. Like, you gonna ring 911? No, you're just gonna just gonna stare at him. Okay, cool. I mean, no complaints here, but that's strange. There were phones in 1983. It's almost like
this film isn't known for having characters that act realistically in any way, shape or form.
Nobody acts the way an actual human would. Like, basically this whole film could have been written by aliens for all we know. Are we sure it wasn't?
It would be an interesting twist. I wouldn't see that coming.
Yeah,
that's the real twist.
The real M. Night Shyamalan twist. I said it right. I can do it. So yeah, but obviously, Felissa Rose, who plays Angela, this was the first acting job she'd had. She gained such like notoriety and fame amongst the horror community that basically it seems like she just coasts on like convention appearances.
Yeah.
I know several people who've met her. They've all said she is just an absolute fucking darling.
Amazing.
We love to hear it. But it's curious that they cast... Obviously, everybody was supposed to be a child.
Yep.
But normally they cast older, like teenagers.
Yeah.
who are playing much younger, it's really rare for them to cast an actual child.
Yeah, because there are all sorts of like labour laws and stuff that restrict how long you can keep kind of like kids around on working, you know?
Yeah, they have to fulfill sort of schooling hours. There are labour laws, which obviously that's why they often have like twins playing the same role.
Right.
Which is I didn't realise that until a few years ago, but makes a lot of sense. I did always wonder. But yeah, so it's really unusual, and I don't know if that's because they filmed it quickly or they did short days, because she's in like a lot of the scenes.
Yeah, she is. I mean, I wouldn't surprise me if it was... I don't know, actually. Just film over summer break. Job done.
I'd be interested to know how they kind of got around that. Or maybe the child labour laws weren't as stringent as they are now back then. I don't know.
I mean, you can get around it. Like, obviously, you know, there are franchises built off the back of child actors.
True.
You know, so it's not something that's impossible to get around. It's just another factor that you need to factor in, and another thing you need to factor in. And for some reason, they decided that was what they wanted to do, you know? Yeah,
true. Interestingly, unlike Revenge, which we covered last time, in which the lead character stops talking at about the 40-minute mark, Angela doesn't say a fucking word until I think 31 minutes into this film.
Should edit them together and they've got a complete character between them.
just nothing but silence. I mean, she's very good at staring.
Yeah.
Excellent at staring.
I think she was actually cast really well. I think. Yeah. Well, I think she nailed. I know it sounds silly to focus on such a big thing, or such a simple thing, but because it was such a big part of her character for, you know, up to half the runtime, just staring dolefully at, like doe-eyed at the other characters. She actually does that really well. She looks very naive and innocent throughout the entire movie. You know, and it's like I said, it's a very simple thing to get hung up on and to kind of like compliment them about. But actually, she does it really well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Good at staring is Felissa Rose.
And I don't know if she's I mean, no disrespect with this. I don't know anything about her. I haven't really seen her in a lot else. She was in Return to Sleepaway Camp.
She's been in a few things.
She has, yeah.
She was in Victor Crowley, Hatchet 4.
Oh shit, of course she was. I've seen her in that as well then. I'm just telling bold-faced lies.
Perfect House, Silent Night, Zombie Night, Camp Dread, Death House, Victor Crowley.
Okay. So she's kind of become...
Has over 100 film credits.
So what you're saying is she's like the female Tony Todd.
I guess so.
Known primarily for one role.
100 films.
But works consistently in horror.
That's crazy.
That's interesting. Another fun fact, which I'm sure most people who are aware of Felissa Rose know, but she is married to, I think he's called Darren Miller.
Okay.
And they kind of met because of Sleepaway Camp.
Okay.
Because he is in the band CKY.
Stop it.
Stop it. We don't want to get flagged by Spotify.
That's the only song I know.
It's a fucking banger. That's why.
Sorry to interrupt. Reminds me of a tweet. Someone wrote as a tweet something like, "What's that song that goes dow-ba-dow bow?" Like literally just spelt dow-ba-dow bow, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, it's 96 Bitter Beings by CKY."
It's that song from the 80s, Dave Bow. But CKY stands for Camp Kill Yourself, which was inspired by Sleepaway Camp.
Gotcha.
Because they were such big fans of the film, and he went on to marry Felissa Rose, which I think is just...
That's pretty sweet.
Such a fun fact. That's so cute. And they've been married for fucking ages. It's adorable. I love it. We don't generally have a lot of good news when we're talking about horror films, but I like that.
Gotta celebrate it when we can.
Very wholesome. We stan.
I want to know why so much of this movie was dedicated to that one baseball scene.
Which baseball scene?
They're all rolled into one. I only noticed one. The one where where Ricky makes a bet with the other guys.
Oh, but that gave us like one of the best one-liners in the entire film.
Which is?
Isn't that where Bill says, eat shit and die, Ricky? And Ricky says, eat shit and live,
yeah,
Bill.
You're
and
right.
I bloody love that. It's such a fun one-liner.
I was just watching the scene. I was like, I'm finding nothing about this movie.
Maybe the editor just like stroked off at that point and forgot to cut.
What information is this giving me? It just felt so weird. I mean, like, I get it. It's not the best film, but felt like they were like, okay, we've come up short. What are we gonna do? We can't add slow motion. Baseball scene, yeah, baseball scene.
I mean, there was at least one scene that was cut that I know of by the MPAA for being too gory.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Maybe they had to fill the running time.
Which one was that one? Which one was that one?
It was, I think, a shot of Judy after her quite disgusting death scene.
I was quite impressed is the wrong word. But...
You can be impressed. It's fine. It was quite imaginative.
It was the way they actually like handled it through silhouette was. Yeah. It was quite a subtle way of doing it.
It was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre way of doing things.
Yeah,
like, you know exactly what's happening. You're not seeing anything to be grossed out by, but it's still really like.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think stuff like that is often far more effective for panning away.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, implied stuff is sometimes more gross than actually seeing it because it takes away the imagination.
Yeah, and often you find that the effects, whether practical or otherwise, never quite live up to it, and it looks a bit dodgy, and you're always a bit like, it just looks like a rubber puppet.
Was that your favourite death scene then?
Favourite death? Don't say favourite.
But do you know what? It is quite imaginative. It's horrible, but I don't know if I've ever seen that done anywhere else.
Well, okay, so let's go through the death scenes because I want to make sure if I'm going to answer that question, I want to make sure there's including potential death scenes. So there's stew, Mr. Cook in the stew.
Okay, so just any attempted murder. So the cook with his burns, which was actually the makeup there was not bad.
It actually reminded me.
I have to say,
it actually reminded me. And no disparagement against it, of The Thing. The shot, I can't remember which I knew you'd say that. But there's a shot when I can't remember which character it is, but he's lying on the ground in a similar way and his head starts stretching up. And his
Norris.
His neck starts extending outwards. Yeah. And I was like,
is it Norris?
I don't think it is Norris. I don't think it is, because Norris is He's quite.
He's lying down, and his head kind of comes off that way, and spider legs sprout out of it. We're spoiling a different film here.
Aren't we? I mean, the thing is even older than Sleepaway Camp.
That's true. It's true.
But no, I think the composition of that shot and the way the skin was bubbling and boiling was. Yeah. It just kind of gave me Thing vibes, which I guess is probably the highest compliment I can give.
It is. It's high praise indeed. So apparently they did that by like pumping gelatin through the prosthetic.
Okay. Neat.
So like the saying is true. Necessity is the mother of invention. If you ain't got the budget, you got to do it imaginatively. And actually that was pretty good. So who else? Who we got next?
No, I couldn't tell you them in order. There was the kid who got killed under the boat.
Oh, yeah, he got drowned.
There was Judy.
Yep.
There was Meg in the shower.
Yeah, which was the only real, like, slasher.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? With a knife and everything.
Yeah.
Who else? I mean, I only watched this last night. I should remember these.
I watched it about an hour ago.
Okay, well, I absolve myself of all responsibility. Sarah, are there any more?
There's loads more. There's a body count of 13, apparently.
13.
Yeah.
All right, well, those are certainly the ones that are most memorable.
I think Judy is my favourite.
Yeah.
Does that make me insane?
No, okay, well, as long as we're on the same page, I'm happy saying that that's my favourite as well. I think it's just there's just something very thematic and very, very kind of like fitting the character she was with that death.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not just like, oh, it's just a knife or an axe or a hook. It's actually something that is very closely associated with her character, you know.
Well, yeah, like something that kind of exacerbated her vanity, and God damn, she was like the peak mean girl.
Oh, she was the worst, wasn't she?
She's horrible.
And this is another reason wasn't particularly a fan of this movie. Everyone was just horrible.
Yeah, like everybody got what they deserved.
Yeah,
I will say. Some people got off lightly. I would go as far as saying that.
Oh, there was the bee death.
Oh yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah.
There's the guy who got trapped in the toilet and then got a hive of bees thrown in him.
Shock beehive through the window. That was so weird.
And you heard nothing but bees, like no actual bees on screen until right at the end. They just have a sound effect of bees going on. Like, yeah, just pretend they're here, guys. Pretend.
Oh, brilliant. There were quite a lot of like quite imaginative deaths, actually. I'll give them that. Especially since there was less to kind of compete with back then. So they didn't even have to be particularly imaginative.
True, yeah. True.
So body count of 13. At what point were you sure that the killer was Angela?
Again, like I was sure after
like straight
finishing
out of the gate.
Well, I've watched it already.
Well, you said you didn't remember anything.
I remembered the ending.
Okay.
How can you not remember the ending? So yeah, like I mean that's perhaps, like I said, perhaps the reason why throughout the second watch I never really picked up on the red herrings, because it felt so obvious that Angela was always going to be the killer.
Okay.
Because of the fact that she was clearly weird and picked on, and Ricky never seemed like unhinged enough to actually be that violent. He always seemed quite kind of good-natured in his defense of Angela.
I had a newfound appreciation for Ricky on this watch because he was so lovely and protective.
Well, that's the thing. He seems very defensive of her, but I don't think he didn't come across as the type of character who would actually attack people unprovoked.
Okay, I would like to take a little bit of time to talk about some delicate subject matter.
Okay.
So, towards the end of the film, we get a couple flashbacks, one of which is the children seeing their dad with his partner, at which point it's kind of like cemented that their dad was gay.
Yeah.
What's your takeaway from that? What do you think the film is trying to say? Like, clearly it was sort of a shocking moment for the children, but how do we view that in 2022?
It's hard for me not to see this film as, and using a very cliched word by now, as problematic.
Right, yeah, no, it is, absolutely. But that's why I think it's important that we kind of acknowledge that and talk about it for a little bit.
Okay, good. I'm glad that,
Yeah.
Like, how do you see it? As if there's... there's no trap here. It's problematic. Yeah, well, like
I'm not trying to lure you to say something homophobic by accident. Don't worry,
well, like,
we're not that kind of podcast.
I mean, I didn't pick up on the idea that they were intimate partners at the start of the movie.
No, I don't think you're supposed to, despite his delivery of John.
But I just don't know what kind of purpose it served. Like the kind of storyline from Angela. Well, what was her brother's name?
Peter.
Peter surviving the boating accident, then being turned into Angela by the Aunt Martha. Like, yes, that's kind of transphobic, but there is at least a narrative thread that runs through that whole thing, and I don't see what purpose their dad being gay served.
No, I don't. Which I think that's why it's as problematic as it is, because to me, I don't know if I'm reading it wrong, but to me, the implication is that
they were traumatized by it.
Yeah. It's a shocking moment that it fucked the kids up, finding out that their dad was gay.
Yeah.
Which is horrible.
Yeah.
Why would it?
I mean...
Just sit them down and have a conversation.
It's shocking enough to see, like, parents having sex regardless of whether it's with each other.
Nobody wants to see that. No one.
But yeah, like, I don't see what... Yeah.
It feels homophobic.
It did, because I think it was so ill-defined that it's hard not... I don't see how else you're supposed to read it.
Yeah, it feels like a really weird inclusion that late into the film, unless it is to say, this is why she's screwed up.
Yeah.
Which is just awful.
But, like, there's no kind of, like, generous way of reading that.
I've tried, and I don't think there is. I think you're right, sadly. And
if you disagree, guys, let us know. Like,
absolutely, happy to be proven wrong.
For sure.
I would far prefer, like, the more optimistic reading of this film. That would be nicer.
Yeah.
But as an extension of that, obviously the big reveal is that Aunt Martha, for whatever fucking reason, was just like, I've got a boy already. I don't want another one. I'm going to raise you as a girl. Now you're called Angela. It means angel. Blech. Whatever. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Whatever bizarre justification she comes up with in her own mind. Why? You can have two boys. That's fine. You don't have to have one of each.
I mean, I guess that's why they take deliberate... I mean, I'm not justifying it, but it's why they take deliberate efforts to make her seem eccentric, because...
She's fucked up as well.
Because she's fucked up, and therefore... That's why she wants to raise this new son as a daughter instead. And again, not justifying it, it's still weird as fuck.
I've seen this film so many times at this point, and I'm forever confused by her and her motivations. And I feel like I'm giving it way too much thought than it even deserves.
I mean, it's a schlocky, crappy 80s slasher movie. I don't like...
No, that's fair. That's fair. But I think, again, problematic shit, we can enjoy it and say it's a product of its time, but I think it's also important that we acknowledge and call that shit out as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So, like, with that in mind, do you think the reveal is problematic? I believe the correct answer is yes.
Yeah. No,
I think it is. Anyway.
Again, I'm just trying to work out if there's any like what purpose does that serve?
It's sort of like, right, to give it the benefit of the doubt, to give it the more optimistic
Angela could have been a cis girl.
It wouldn't. Yeah, if she was just a traumatized little girl. Yeah,
and nothing would have changed.
But I think they felt like they had to have this big kind of twist reveal ending.
Yeah.
I guess if she had just been a little cis white girl, then people probably wouldn't talk about it to this day. They wouldn't hold it in such high regard. Because it has like a 6.2 on IMDb, and people are generally stingy on there.
Yes, that is true on IMDb, no less. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like I'm kind of in two minds about it, because on the one hand, yes, she is a trans character, but the decision to be trans was not hers.
Yep. And arguably, it could be seen as being the result of a traumatic event involving her gay dad, or at least in part. So
she's like, what, 13? So 8 years ago, she'd have been 5. I think most 5-year-olds would just be like, okay, you're the authority figure here, I'll do what you say.
But again, it's querying why that scene's even in there, if not to set up some kind of like weird psychological issue that she has. Yeah,
the trauma would have been enough, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Like being involved in a boating accident where your dad dies, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
So yeah, the decision to make her trans is problematic because, like, giving it the benefit of the doubt again, on the one hand, she is portrayed very sympathetically.
For sure.
The whole time we are clearly, as an audience, supposed to side with Angela. She is continually mistreated, mocked, bullied, and it's horrible. And, there's a little part of us that cheers when her bullies and detractors get their comeuppance. So she's clearly the, hero of the piece. But making her the killer, who is also a trans person, is really iffy representation.
Yeah.
And kind of, to me, this is the sort of thing that TERFs would use as their argument. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It fucks them up. It makes them into serial killers. Do you see what I'm saying? That's a terrible example, but I feel like not all representation should be positive.
No.
I think...
No, because not everyone is, not,
But trans people can be shitty people.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
They're human.
Exactly.
So I think mixed representation is good.
Yeah.
However, 40 years ago, when there was basically none, this was it. It could have been an opportunity for something really groundbreaking.
And instead you get this big reveal where Angela has this huge manic look on her face.
Yeah.
After the kind of revelation is happening, she's fully naked, and and then it's all of a sudden it's revealed that she's I don't even know. That's a whole minefield in of itself.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because the counsellor, the one who wore the shortest shorts I've ever seen on a man.
Which is saying something for saying this is the 80s.
But he says, she's a boy.
Yeah.
Which is a confusing sentence in and of itself. But none of this, it's an exploitation picture.
Yeah.
We're not here for sensitivity, but it could have been dealt with better.
Yeah.
It could have been a real opportunity for something groundbreaking, and I feel like it was sort of transgressive in the wrong ways.
No, I'd agree.
Not regressive even. I don't know.
And there's levels of it as well. It's the fact, I think it's because the fact they come hand in hand. It's like, she's the killer, she's crazy, look at her face, she's also trans. They come as this one package at the end of it all.
Yeah, it's bundling it.
And
it's
all of a
saying,
sudden those associations are all tied up together.
Yeah, maybe that caused her psychopathy.
Yeah. And
no, it was the trauma.
and there probably could have been a version of this, and again, I'm not saying it would be good, but it might be better if her transness was part of her character from the start. I don't know.
Or that, so, all right, here's a question for you. Did Ricky know?
You would have thought so.
You say that, but if Angela had been raised as a girl from sort of day one of Aunt Martha's care, maybe not. Maybe Ricky only knew Angela as a girl.
Yeah, but
I don't.
If they were, it's impossible to know.
This is my question.
But their
anyway,
family,
because like,
right? Their family. Would they have not seen each other before the accident? I don't. I don't know. It's impossible to know. There's just any number of situations that changes the way that that kind of dynamic would have played out.
Yeah, I think to me, like, a better ending would have been, like, maybe the reveal is that she's trans, but that Ricky was the one doing the killing to protect her identity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Like, that would have been the more enlightened ending, I guess.
And I think probably the more kind of, like, satisfactory ending as well, because...
It would have been more sympathetic for the both of them, I think.
Yeah, because... Yeah, exactly. And you still get to play with the dynamic of what Angela's, for want of a better word, hiding, because she's portrayed... Because then neither is the red herring.
Yeah.
Both are hiding something throughout the movie, and both have questions around them, and both get their reveal at the end. But and so neither. So that just feels more satisfactory from a narrative perspective, I think. Yeah.
Do you know what's really interesting?
What?
You know, basically all of our favourite slashers, or horror movies in general, from the 70s, 80s, and even 90s and beyond, are being remade and rebooted. Nobody's touching this with a barge pole. And yet, I think it would be a really solid opportunity to update it and be progressive. I'm interested to see what would happen if it was dealt with in the year of our Lord 2022. I don't know.
It would be curious to see. You often find, I've often heard that kind of minority audiences do align themselves with the characters that reflect themselves, even if the characters themselves are bad. And so it would be curious to see if there was a trans writer out there, for example, who did grow up with this movie and want to give it a new lease on life from an actual trans person's perspective.
I'd watch the shit out of that.
Yeah.
I'd be first in line for a ticket. Who do we talk to about making this happen? Who do we reach out to?
Don't expect me to answer that.
But yeah, ultimately, to answer your initial question, yes, I think this film, particularly the ending, the reveal, is very problematic. Do I think they had bad intentions? No, I don't get that impression. I think 40 years ago, things were very different. We're all evolving. Our opinions are changing. What we know is changing.
Yeah.
Every single day, as a collective. Sadly, some people are still happy to live in their little cave and not change their views or open their minds. But for the rest of us, I think, yes, it's difficult because I still really like this film.
Yeah.
And it's always difficult to kind of reconcile that when you acknowledge that a film is problematic.
I guess for those sort of movies, you need to look at their cultural impact, because I would say, and this is coming from a straight white guy's perspective, which is the most unwelcome perspective.
And yet the most heard.
If a film has a very, very big impact upon a minority audience, a negative impact, then I think I would probably feel anxious about liking that movie.
Yeah.
Because it's clearly caused a lot of damage to a lot of people. I don't know personally how this film affected, because it probably is a cult, and it's probably because it's a cult movie that it didn't have quite the same. You look at Silence of the Lambs and Buffalo Bill. I think that there was a bit of a kickback from that.
Oh, people protested.
Yeah, exactly. And that, the thing is that film had a large cultural impact because of how successful it was.
I would say that was a different kettle of fish, though. I would argue that Buffalo Bill wasn't trans.
True, yeah, he was a transvestite, right?
No, I wouldn't even say that. I think
I've only
you
seen
just
the film once, so
you need to rectify that. It's a perfect film, Philip.
I know.
Yeah, I think viewed through today's lens, it's not great.
He was just the one character that jumped to mind when I was thinking of like.
Yeah, but it's more that he had kind of a different kind of. It wasn't necessarily gender dysphoria.
Mm.
It was that he wanted to be someone else, and like he had this obsession with his mom and.
Well, yeah, and speaking of which, Norman Bates.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, it's quite a common per se, but like it's certainly a theme that you can trace from, through decades of horror, that villains often dress differently to the way everyone else does.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I think my opinion remains unchanged.
Yeah,
I still really enjoy this film for what it is.
That's what we were saying. Like, I think this film, because it has been a cult hit, it hasn't had that big kind of like cultural impact, and therefore, again, coming from my perspective, which probably not not particularly important, but I would say that it's kind of okay not to worry too much about liking it.
Yeah, I agree. I think calling it out and out transphobic is perhaps a stretch. I think I hope the intentions were pure.
Mm.
I think it could have been dealt with a lot more sensitively. However, I still think Angela is the most sympathetic character in the film. She's the most relatable for most people.
Yeah, for sure. And 100%.
So,
And that, and I think they take great pains to make that the case, because
to make her likable.
Her and Ricky are the only characters in this movie that I liked in any way.
I don't know, the older cook who let the paedophile just sort of suffer on the floor. He's gone up in my estimation as well.
Fair.
The three though. But yeah, I think my opinion is largely unchanged. I think this film is just cheesy as fuck. Pretty poorly made for the most part.
Pretty poorly made.
I think the script elevates it in places.
Mm-hmm.
I think the performances are deeply strange and just all over the place. There are some really bizarre set pieces that happen, but I think it's inventive.
Yeah.
And despite the subject matter, it is quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, problematic or not, that ending is shocking.
Yeah.
Like, it stays with you.
Yeah.
Just the image of her face and that noise, which I believe it was like a slowed down bear or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like that really weird kind of throaty, just unsettling noise. I think all of that kind of makes for kind of an ending,
Like that, literally that's how it ends. It's like, cut to her face.
Yep.
Weird 80s visual effect overlay. Credits.
Yeah. I'm going to leave you with one little fact.
Okay.
And apparently that is that the quite obviously grown man who is the body double for Angela at the end had to get drunk to do the scene.
Don't
so
blame him.
nervous. No one knows who it is to this day.
I love that so much.
Uncredited.
The mystery man.
Yeah. I mean, you would assume he would tell friends and family, but I don't know. Maybe he's going to take that to the grave. Maybe he already has. Who knows?
Oof.
We'll never know. So
that is a fact to leave us with.
But that's me.
The one mystery dick in the film.
Yeah, the other dicks are blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, or is that a wrap on Sleepaway Camp?
I think so. There's plenty of notes that I haven't really kind of discussed, but they're all like minor points throughout and not really worth addressing.
Okay. What are your final thoughts then? Would you watch this again, or are you just
for a
fucking
third time?
Done?
No, I think I would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out of my way to show anyone it. And not in a. I wouldn't discourage people to watch it. I think there's.
You just watch it at home alone with the shame.
I think this is the type of movie that, if you like these sort of movies, you will enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which I
agree.
suppose is such a non-opinion, because if you like slasher movies, you will like this slasher movie. You know.
I think that's a fair assessment, though.
Yeah.
I think you were right at the start when you said it does sort of fall into that category of almost so bad it's good, because it's so entertaining.
Mm.
Apart from the 63-minute baseball sequence, of course.
I was like, how long does this go on for?
So yeah, I think that's it. Join us next week when we are covering Sleepaway Camp 2. No, I'm kidding. Thank you.
More to do.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening this far. We had a blast. You can join us on all of the social medias at Radio Gore Press. You can check out our Patreon. Every single episode is effectively brought to you by our patrons. We can't emphasize enough how much we love those guys. And if you would like to hop on board, there will be a link in the description of this podcast, wherever you are listening. And until next time...
It's $2, guys. A month.
All
$2
right.
a month. Not much.
You just stole my thunder. I was about to say stay spooky and you fucked it.
Well, say it now. Say it now.
Oh, stay spooky.
Rubbish. Say it again.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.